Welcome to episode 38 of your CYSA Plus Prepcast. In this session, we dive into a specialized yet essential analytical skill, suspicious command interpretation. This practice allows cybersecurity analysts to detect, investigate, and respond to malicious command line activity rapidly. Threat actors frequently operate through system shells, scripting interfaces, and remote consoles, making their actions visible through the commands they execute. Learning to interpret these commands is vital to understanding attacker behavior and stopping threats before they escalate. Mastering this skill will not only help you succeed on the CYSA Plus exam, but also empower you to take decisive action in live incident response environments. To begin, let's define suspicious command interpretation. It refers to the process of analyzing executed commands in system logs or live telemetry to determine whether they represent normal administrative activity or malicious intent. Attackers often use native operating system utilities, sometimes referred to as living off-the-land binaries, to blend into legitimate processes. By understanding which commands are common in attacks and how they're used, analysts can separate benign activity from red flags. This makes command interpretation one of the most direct and powerful methods for identifying intrusions. Analysts commonly begin their reviews by inspecting commands executed in shell logs, PowerShell histories, or audit trails from endpoint monitoring tools. Commands that perform user enumeration, such as netuser, wmic, or ID, may appear harmless at first, but become suspicious when issued by non-admin users or from previously unused systems. These enumeration commands are often used in the early stages of reconnaissance, helping attackers understand what privileges they have and which accounts exist in the environment. On the exam, expect to see scenarios that involve interpreting command history and determining whether enumeration has occurred. Command interpretation also plays a central role in detecting lateral movement and remote access attempts. Utilities such as psexec, DS, wmic, and mstsc can all be used by attackers to move from one system to another after compromise. When these commands originate from unexpected sources, outside of normal working hours, or are launched using suspicious arguments, analysts should investigate immediately. For example, a psexec call from a user workstation to a domain controller without administrative context raises a serious red flag. You may be asked to assess logs showing remote command execution and infer the likely objective. File system exploration is another telltale activity that analysts monitor. Commands like dir, else, find, or get child item are legitimate when used by system administrators or backup utilities, but suspicious when executed by service accounts or non-privileged users. Attackers often use these commands to locate documents, credential files, or configuration scripts that may contain sensitive data. Analysts flag these patterns when the commands are issued in high-value directories, such as those containing finance records, passwords, or database exports. On the exam, expect to classify file exploration as benign or malicious based on user context and command targets. PowerShell commands are particularly high risk due to their flexibility and depth of system access. Analysts monitor for suspicious commands such as invoke expression, IEX, encoded command, or calls to external resources using invoke rehelmet. These techniques are often used to download and execute malware, establish persistence, or open reverse shells. Encoding is frequently used to mask payloads and avoid detection when these elements appear in combination, especially with parameters that bypass security settings. Analysts should prioritize the incident for immediate review. The CYSA Plus exam may include obfuscated PowerShell commands and ask you to determine their purpose. Credential theft is another objective commonly revealed through command interpretation. Analysts watch for the use of known utilities like mimikatz, cred_dump, or registry access commands that target password storage locations. Commands such as regsave hklm sam or elsesxc memory dumps suggest attempts to capture password hashes. These techniques often follow privilege escalation and serve as a precursor to lateral movement. Analysts must understand not only the commands themselves, but also the context in which they appear, Who ran them, when, and from which system? On the exam, you may be asked to identify credential theft based on a sequence of executed commands. Persistence mechanisms are also discoverable through careful command analysis. Attackers may attempt to set up scheduled tasks using shtasks, edit startup scripts, or modify registry auto-run keys using regadd. These commands often appear as part of a post-exploitation phase where attackers seek to maintain access after reboot or after antivirus intervention. For example, a new task that runs PowerShell with a hidden window on every user login should be treated as highly suspicious. You may encounter exam questions that include auto-run configuration commands and ask how to respond, or investigate further. Commands involving network reconnaissance or exfiltration are another major focus area. Tools like netstat, enslookup, or curl may be used to test outbound connectivity, look up domain names, or upload stolen data. When used in conjunction with encoded parameters, these commands often signal attempts to evade perimeter defenses and quietly exfiltrate data. Analysts correlate these commands with proxy logs, DNS requests, and firewall alerts to verify suspicious communication. The CySA Plus exam may test your ability to identify exfiltration attempts based on command usage and network indicators. Another key behavior analysts watch for is the intentional disabling or evasion of security controls. Commands like netstop, targeting antivirus or firewall services, or registry edits that disable logging, are strong indicators of sabotage or preparation for broader attack stages. These commands typically follow privilege escalation and are used to reduce the attacker's footprint or suppress alert generation. Analysts should treat these actions as priority 1 alerts. On the exam, you may be presented with service modification commands and asked to determine the attacker's intent or suggest an appropriate response. For more cyber-related content and books, please check out cyberauthor.me. Also, there are more security courses on cybersecurity and more at baremetalcyber.com. Now that we've examined the foundational types of suspicious commands, ranging from reconnaissance and lateral movement to credential theft and persistence techniques, let's move deeper into the advanced interpretation strategies analysts use when reviewing command line activity. In this second half, we'll cover how to decode obfuscated payloads, correlate command sequences with broader indicators, utilize endpoint detection tools, and reinforce detection through rule creation and collaboration. This approach helps analysts transform raw command line evidence into a structured understanding of attacker behavior. These strategies are tested on the CySA Plus exam and serve as daily operational practices in modern SOC environments. Let's begin with one of the most frequent attacker tactics, obfuscation. Command line obfuscation involves encoding or altering commands to avoid detection by security tools and make analysis more difficult. Analysts often encounter base 64 encoded payloads, URL encoding, command fragmentation, or use of escape characters to hide malicious instructions. For instance, attackers may use PowerShell with a flag to execute code that appears harmless at first glance, but unpacks into a downloader or reverse shell. Analysts use tools like CyberChef, decoding functions in SIM platforms or in-house scripts, to deobfuscate and reveal the true intent. On the CySA Plus exam, expect to analyze obfuscated strings and identify what the command is ultimately designed to do. Privilege escalation attempts are another area where command interpretation is crucial. Commands such as update, runAs, or su are legitimate administrative tools, but when used in non-standard contexts, such as by users who normally don't operate with elevated privileges, they become suspicious. Similarly, attackers may exploit vulnerabilities to modify access tokens or adjust user permissions using built-in utilities. Analysts monitor for these actions on high-value systems, including domain controllers and file servers. Alerting on misuse of privilege adjustment tools helps prevent unauthorized elevation and lateral movement. CySA Plus scenarios may include suspicious escalations and ask you to evaluate whether access was gained or merely attempted. Effective analysis also involves correlating suspicious commands with other system and network indicators. For example, the execution of a credential harvesting script might be correlated with logon failures, strange user agent strings in proxy logs, or outbound traffic to unrecognized IP addresses. Analysts look at the broader context. Was the command executed after hours, by a non-admin user, or following a phishing email click? These relationships provide the story behind the alert, enabling incident responders to make quick and informed decisions. On the exam, you may be asked to correlate disparate events and determine the likely attack vector or timeline. Building that attack timeline is one of the most valuable outcomes of command interpretation. Analysts use timestamped logs to reconstruct what happened, when, and by whom. For instance, reviewing command execution logs from a compromised workstation might show that the attacker gained access at 2:14 p.m., performed reconnaissance at 2:16, moved laterally by 2:21, and attempted data exfiltration by 2:27. This sequencing supports rapid containment, forensic validation, and reporting to stakeholders. CySA Plus questions may include timeline reconstruction tasks, where you'll interpret log data and outline attacker steps based on command evidence. Endpoint detection and response tools significantly enhance command analysis. These platforms capture detailed telemetry such as command line arguments, parent-child process relationships, and script executions in real time. EDR alerts may flag use of specific tools like mimikatz, flag abnormal script execution, or highlight binaries launched from non-standard locations. Analysts rely on EDR dashboards to filter command activity based on users, endpoints, or behaviors. When paired with SIM platforms, this visibility supports cross-spectral detection and root cause analysis. Expect the exam to include EDR summaries with command output and ask how to interpret or prioritize findings. Detection effectiveness depends on continuously tuning command-based alerts. Analysts refine thresholds, update alert logic, and build custom rules based on observed attacker techniques. For example, a SIM correlation rule might alert when cert utilize is used to download a file from an external domain, especially when the destination is non-corporate. Analysts regularly assess the accuracy of such rules, removing false positives and adjusting triggers to reflect evolving threat. The exam may test your understanding of rule tuning, asking when a rule should be broadened or narrowed based on its alerting behavior. Proper documentation is essential during and after the interpretation of suspicious commands. Analysts maintain records of every identified command string, associated behaviors, the originating user or process, and all remediation actions. These records help support incident reports, forensic investigations, and compliance requirements. They also create a reference library that can be used for training or future detection rule development. On the exam, you may be presented with a documented list of observed commands and asked to determine the quality or completeness of the investigation. Training plays a critical role in maintaining analyst proficiency. Threat actors continue to evolve their scripting and command line tactics, requiring analysts to stay current. This includes reviewing red team exercises, studying new malware samples, and participating in threat emulation labs. Training builds pattern recognition muscle memory, enabling faster detection of tools, techniques, and procedures used by attackers. Analysts should also practice decoding obfuscation, tracing script logic, and identifying unconventional tool usage. On the exam, expect questions that reflect the need for ongoing skill development in command interpretation. Analysts also contribute to organizational resilience by turning interpreted command data into actionable intelligence. This involves creating custom YARA rules for detection, writing SIM correlation logic, or submitting newly discovered indicators to threat intelligence teams. For example, if an analyst observes a unique encoded payload used in a credential theft script, they may write a YARA rule to flag similar payloads on other systems. This transformation of incident insight into reusable detection material is a core SOC function. On the exam, you may need to determine how to operationalize findings from a command analysis. Finally, collaboration is key. Analysts must share their findings with threat intelligence teams to improve IOC sharing, incident response teams to enhance containment speed, and security engineers to strengthen preventative controls. For example, if analysts detect commands used to disable logging, engineers may respond by hardening audit configurations. Command interpretation is not a siloed activity. It informs detection, remediation, policy updates, and organizational learning. Expect the exam to include questions on cross-team communication and how to coordinate based on interpreted threat behavior. To conclude episode 38, the ability to accurately interpret suspicious commands is one of the fastest and most effective ways to detect and respond to intrusions. These commands reveal attacker intent, provide insight into their methods, and allow analysts to respond before damage occurs. By practicing command interpretation, refining detection rules, and correlating with broader system behaviors, analysts become better equipped to defend complex environments and maintain a high standard of incident readiness. Mastering this skill ensures success on the CySA Plus exam and builds lasting value in your cybersecurity career. Thanks for listening. To learn more about cybersecurity, please visit baremetalcyber.com. There you will find best-selling books, videos, and even more free cybersecurity training courses. Please subscribe to the Prepcast and our various podcasts. And thanks for listening.